Drivers of the new UFO narrative keep absurdly saying they could be dangerous ETs. I've been learning as much as I can about the new UFO narrative the political media class have been pushing in conjunction with the U.S. military to prepare for the Senate report that's due to be released this month. One of the disconcerting things I've been seeing again and again from all the major players in this new narrative, like Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon, is the absurd assertion that not only is it entirely possible that the unknown phenomena allegedly being regularly witnessed by military personnel are extraterrestrial in origin, but that if they are extraterrestrial, they may want to hurt us. Mellon, the former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, who helped get the ball rolling on UFOs entering mainstream attention back in 2017 when he leaked 3 Pentagon videos to the New York Times, has stated that he sees extraterrestrial origin as an entirely possible explanation for these phenomena. "We don't even understand how you could do something like that," Mellon said in a recent interview with CTV News of the inexplicable maneuvers and features these aircraft supposedly demonstrate. "We don't even understand the science behind it. Not like somebody's a couple generations of fighter jet behind us. I mean, this is a whole difference of kind, not degree." Asked why the pilots of mysterious aircraft with incomprehensible scientific advancement might want to monitor the U.S. military, Mellon said the following, quote, "Well, probably for the same reason we do, to understand what kind of threat we could pose to them. Should a conflict arise, they want to be able to engage us effectively, defeat us rapidly, at minimum cost of life and treasure, just as we would on the other side. We do similar kinds of things. We don't have vehicles quite like this, but we're certainly very active monitoring the military forces of other countries." End quote. The notion that UFOs could pose a threat to humans, whether their alleged operators are from our world or from another, is being promoted by the main drivers of this strange new plot line, and it is being enthusiastically lapped up by many UFO enthusiasts who see framing these phenomena as a national security threat as the best way to get mainstream power structures to take them seriously and disclose information to the public. This is bothersome for a couple of separate reasons. Firstly, it is of course bothersome because one ought to be bothered any time military and intelligence insiders make unsubstantiated claims that there's a foreign threat to U.S. security. The added notion that this threat could be from another world carries all kinds of implications for what kinds of unprecedentedly radical policy and funding adjustments would have to be made in order to counter this supposed threat. And it would take an appalling amount of gullibility to believe that those adjustments would be made for that reason at this point in time, instead of the very obvious reason that the U.S. is in a new and escalating Cold War with both Russia and China. Secondly, it's bothersome because it just says so much about human madness that people believe UFOs could simultaneously be the product of an immensely advanced extraterrestrial civilization and also be a threat. They could be one or the other, but not both. Just in our own tiny blip of recorded history, humanity has matured mentally and emotionally during our time on this planet. We no longer accept it as normal for our governments to torture someone to death in the town square, for example. And owning another human being as property is now seen as reprehensible. We've still got a mountain of inner demons to conquer, but you also can't deny that we've created a more conscious and peaceful world for ourselves than the one we used to live in. Imagine how much further an intelligent life form would have progressed if it began maturing millions of years earlier than ours. Imagine how emotionally and intellectually developed a civilization would have to be to make it past all the self-imposed dangers its own intelligence posed to it, like the dangers human intelligence poses to us now, if it had passed the great test and cleared that hurdle in its maturation process, and then gone on maturing for thousands or millions of years past the point we're at now. When I bring this up online, people tell me, well, look at what the Europeans did when they met indigenous populations. That's what happens when a more advanced civilization meets a less advanced one. You see this ridiculous notion pushed everywhere, including by supposedly smart people like Stephen Hawking, that Europeans meeting the indigenous people of Africa, Australia, and the Americas is a good model for what we could expect from an encounter with a civilization millions of years more advanced than our own. This reveals an unquestioned assumption that genocidal Europeans were in fact more advanced than the other humans they met around the world. They were a bit more technologically advanced, but any research into the horrific things they did to those people will show you that they were emotionally infantile by today's standards. It also looks at humans who began developing on the same planet at the same time as comparable to extraterrestrials who would have begun developing long before us. Beyond the fact that we have seen in our own experience that an intelligent consciousness will keep expanding its consciousness over time, the most glaring piece of evidence that UFOs could pose no threat to us if they are extraterrestrial is that if they did, they would have taken us out long ago. UFO encounters have been documented for generations. There is nothing humans could do to stop a sentient species that is orders of magnitude technologically superior to us, no matter what the movies say. If extraterrestrials are here, they clearly don't want to hurt us. And why would they? What could we possibly have that they'd want? In the unlikely event that there is some kind of element or resource here that they need, there's no reason to believe they couldn't get it elsewhere, or indeed that they couldn't create it themselves at the level of scientific understanding they'd necessarily be operating from. The idea that a civilization could attain a level of advancement comparable to ours, successfully learn to share resources and collaborate enough to avoid wiping itself out, continue maturing for a very long time, master interstellar, intergalactic, and/or interdimensional travel, create aircraft that can operate in the way people who encounter them describe, and then fly across the universe to go kill a bunch of barely evolved primates for some reason is just absurd on its face. And even if such a thing could happen, it would have happened already. I've sat through so much video footage on this subject, and I just get so frustrated listening to all these military-minded men talking about the need to know what the capabilities of these things are and how to prevent them from posing a threat to national security. If we are in fact not alone in this universe, and are in fact being visited by other civilizations, these are the absolute stupidest questions we could possibly be asking ourselves about them. Not how we can contact them, is it possible to communicate with them, what we could learn from them, where are they from and what is their story, but how we can kill them if we need to. I have no idea if we are being visited by ETs. But if we are, the US military is literally the worst thing our species could possibly use to relate to them.